order at 12:31. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now move on to roll call. President Wadsworth is excused. She's at SUNY SA helping to set up. Vice President Fees is here. Treasurer Self.
Here.
Secretary Emanuele.
Here.
Chief of Staff Pena.
Here.
Chief Justice Nolan is not here. College Counsel Rossi.
Here.
Senator Wallachy. Senator Gunter. Senator Hedman was different, sorry. Senator Yella.
Here.
Senator Totino.
Here.
Senator Schnorr is absent. Senator Walters. Senator Miles. Senator Fisher.
Here.
Our advisor. CFB.
Here.
Wildcat Media.
Here.
Webb.
Here.
Wildcat Esports.
Here.
SAC is not here, and our Res Life rep is not here. We will now move on to the approval of minutes and agenda. Do we have any discussion? Senator Miles.
To update the resolution. Oops, I think I lost it. Two 2324-05 to the updated version.
Do I have a second to that motion? Seconded by Senator Wallachy. Do we have any discussion on said motion? Seeing no discussion on the motion, if this passes, I will send this out in an email via the same chain that the agenda and the minutes were sent out. Does anybody oppose unanimous consent to the motion to changes to the updated resolution? Seeing none, this passes 7-0-0. You should have the email like right now. Do we have any other discussion on the approval of minutes and agenda? Seeing no further discussion, the approval of minutes and agenda. Does anybody oppose unanimous consent to the passing and approval of the minutes and agenda? Seeing none, this passes 7-0-0. We will now move on to announcements. We have no announcements today. We will now move on to guest speakers. We have no guest speakers. We will now move on to executive reports. The president has not provided me with a report. We will now move on to vice president reports. Once again, ORCADs, please begin to look at your policies and procedures. We will begin reviewing that in the spring semester as soon as possible. I'm hoping to begin a policy review in mid-February. Speaking of policy, I plan to meet with some club leaders going forward regarding our CFB changes. These club leaders should have an email with a schedule assist, and a time will be announced soon when we meet about that. I'm also still in the process of sending out emails to individual clubs regarding committees they may be interested in. If anyone has any questions or concerns about committees, please feel free to contact me. In addition, I will be meeting with the CFB advisor, the CFB chair, and Dr. Joanne Joseph to go over some possible community service opportunities for the spring. As this meeting comes to a close, I want to remind everybody that we will have no Senate meeting next week because of Thanksgiving. When someone motions to adjourn today, please motion to adjourn until Thursday, November 30th, for our record-keeping purposes. Speaking of giving thanks, I wanted to take some time in my report to thank our advisor, Megan. Unfortunately, this will be Megan's last Senate meeting with us as her advisor. Megan, SGU cannot thank you enough for your contribution to this organization. You have dedicated hours of your time walking us through difficult decisions and advocating for all of us along the way. Your impact will be remembered by the people sitting here in this horseshoe, as well as all of the students you have touched here and your time at SUNY Poly. We wish you nothing but the best going forward, and we know that you'll do nothing but great things at your new job. Stay funky fresh, Megan. We know you always will. We will now move on to our treasurer report. Treasurer Self.
Greetings, everyone. I hope you are all doing well today. I had my meeting with John this past Monday and talked with him about the stipends. You will get an email around the last 2 weeks of the semester involving your stipend if you are to be picking it up in person. I am working with Bailey to get the reserves finalized so that the money will be loaded into the accounts. If you want to order an item immediately, make a resolution, submit it to the floor, and then make a PR request. We can then talk privately about what we will do from there on. while we wait for money to get loaded into the accounts. I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving, and thank you, Megan, for the support you have given to everyone here and myself as I have adapted to this position in the past year with no training. And for the quote of the week, Lord, I didn't train to be a pilot. I don't have any more flying to do today, do I? So is that a yes or a no? Amen.
We will now move on to our secretary. No report. We will now move on to our chief of staff.
No report.
We will now move on to our chief justice.
No report.
We will now move on to our college council.
Hi everyone. I don't have anything new to report, but I do want to encourage all of you, if you haven't yet, to RSVP for the event tomorrow. There's a big announcement, but there's also some pretty cool speakers coming. So if you haven't RSVP'd, you have to RSVP and show up a little bit early. But I highly recommend it. They want me to bring people. So, but anyways, I yield.
We will now move on to our advisor.
In that, thank you again. I kind of gave my remarks a couple weeks ago, and to save you all the trouble of me crying again, I will yield to those remarks a couple weeks ago. But thank you doesn't seem like enough. It's been a great time here. As my son said last night, as we departed to Wally in one of the last events that he'll attend at SUNY Poly while I'm working here, is that he will miss Walter, but he will miss his big kid friends the most. And many of you around this horseshoe are his big kid friends. And so, I try to explain that you all leave as well, and that you would have departed from him in your own journeys. And so that just gives you a reminder and an authentic view that my son and my family and myself have been deeply impacted by all of you in such great ways. And I won't be a stranger. I'll be around a little bit in the spring a little bit. And I'm just a phone call away and an email away. If you need letters of reference or need something from me, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you again for everything. I'm out.
We will now move on to our committee reports. Student success, if anybody would like to give a report for that committee. Anybody that's in there? Would you like to give a report, Senator Miles? Yes. Please proceed.
We are currently working on updating Engage to make it a more user-friendly platform to hopefully increase student involvement in activities around campus.
Thank you. We will now move on to Budget Committee.
No report.
We will now move on to Class Gift. No report. We will now move on to the Student Center Advisory Committee.
So the new water bottle station on the first floor of the Student Center has been installed, and we are waiting for the one upstairs to be installed.
I can confirm that it is a good refill station. We will now move on to Wellness and Inclusion.
Another kind of short report today. Day of Kindness on Monday was a success. Thank you to those of you who helped out. We're continuing to plan for events, so just be on the lookout for that. And another thank you to Megan for always being here. But other than that,
We will now move on to food. We will now move on to safety and facilities. If anybody in the committee would like to give a report. Co-chair, no report? Alrighty, we will now move on to policy. We finished the CFB resolution, the impeachment document. Wow, I've been talking about that forever. It's finally on the table. Both of those are on the table today. We also talked about possible CFB reforms, and I will begin taking feedback to continue streamlining the bill for when it gets introduced. We're hoping to pass this bill, or at least put it on the table in the spring semester, hopefully before the 4th or 5th week of spring semester. I'm also working on a social media and an organization sponsorship bill going forward to help streamline the process for sponsorships. I'll be working with our esports director for that, since they are the org that generally uses sponsorships the most. I yield on that. We will now move on to org reports. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know why I've been doing this recently. Web.
Have Humans vs. Zombies and Donovan from 8 to 10 on Friday, November 17th. We also have a movie showing at Rome Cinema 8. The movie that was being shown is Hunger Games, the Ballad of the Songbirds and Snakes, from Friday, November 17th, 12 a.m. to November 18th at 11:45 p.m. Next week is Thanksgiving break. Have a great break. And New York City trip is December 2nd. It's a $20 deposit if you want to secure your spot. November 30th at noon is the last day to submit a deposit. That's it. I yield.
We will now move on to CFB.
Everybody, I'm happy to finally announce I finally made my first meeting and not being sick. It's long overdue, but I do want to thank SGU, including the exec board, Senate, both the SGU and CFB advisors, and everybody else who's helped me transition to this position. Now, on to my report. A few announcements. As CFB has now filled the chair position, we're now looking for a secretary position to be filled. If you're interested or you know someone who is interested in joining our awesome CFB family, let us know. Email us at cfb@sunypoly.edu. Also, clubs are looking great. They're going great. As the running total, we're up to 30 activated clubs, which is the most we ever had, which is sick. Also, as next week is the last week of programming, we ask clubs to start looking into scheduling events for the next semester, being spring 2024. Also, as a reminder, on November 29th, which is the Wednesday after Thanksgiving, I believe from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., SGU, in partner with the Wellness Center and Career Services, will be hosting a professional used clothing drive. This will be an event where students can come and get formal and semi-formal clothing donated by students, faculty, and alumni. During the event, they will also be hosting a professional headshot day, as well as tabling for professional development. If anybody or any club would like to volunteer for or have any questions about this event, please email Chief of Staff Baina or President Wadsworth. Also, I do want to say CFB and myself would also like to thank Megan, our wonderful SGU advisor, and all the efforts she's done at her time at SGU. We wish her well in her future journeys. That's about it. Hope you all have a triumphant Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you, CFB. We'll now move on to Wildcat Media.
All right. So Wildcat Media has gotten some new antennas from mics, so please be patient with us as we figure out getting them all up and running. The audience mic stand is missing, so we just set the mic on the edge of the overhead table over by Zach. And Wildcat Media is holding our Polyfeud event tomorrow in Kinsell Hall at 7 p.m. Hope to see you all there. And lastly, Wildcat Media would like to thank Megan for everything she's done for us and just helping us out when we just have general concerns around SUNY Poly or just being patient with us when we get new equipment. So we thank you.
We will now move on to Wildcat Esports.
This week we started our SUNY playoffs. Unfortunately, two of our teams, Valorant Team A and Overwatch Team A, were eliminated from those playoffs, but they will still be continuing a long run in ECAC. I just want to remind everyone that the Smash Weekly next week will be canceled due to Thanksgiving. And we also would like to thank Megan. FragFest would not have been how smooth it was without your help. So thank you. I yield.
Alrighty, we will now move on to, seeing as org reports have been concluded, we'll now move on to new business. Bill number 2324-XX. Senator Totino.
Motion to accept bill number 2223-XX.
Seeing as this is a committee bill, you may proceed.
All right, we, the members of Student Government at Utica of SUNY Poly, as represented in the Senate, do enact as followed. This bill updates the financial policy from various bills that were passed throughout the 22-23 academic year.
Do we have any discussion on the bill? Treasurer Self.
If you are looking for where the changes took place, it is under the club funding section, I believe it was. I'm trying to find it myself now. No, it's under the line transfer policy if you are looking for where the changes took place. There was only one bill last year that came through, and it was changing information under the line policy. So you'll see it's highlighted in yellow what's been added. Struck out is what's been removed from last year. I yield.
Alrighty, do we have any further discussion on the bill? Seeing no further discussion on the bill, because this is a new business, we will not be voting on it today. We will now move on to, hold on, I'm finding it, I'm scrolling through. Resolution number 2324-05. Please refer to the updated version. Senator Yella.
Motion to accept Senate Resolution number 2324-XX.
Do we have any discussion on the resolution? Or sorry, gosh, do I have a second? Seconded by Senator Fisher. You may proceed.
We, the Senate of SUNY Poly, student government Utica, do hereby resolve this bill updates the financial policy from. Sorry. The purpose of this resolution is to liquidate clubs that have not been activated in over 2 semesters. Whereas CFB has a right to liquidate clubs that have not been activated in 2 semesters or more, and whereas the following clubs have not been activated for 2 semesters or more: 3D Printing Club, $958.23; Finance, Accounting, and Business Club, $367.11. Excuse me. Ski Club, $150; Supernatural Club, $25; Table Tennis Club, $25; Wildcats Chess Club, $718.93. Therefore, be it enacted, the following clubs will be liquidated and unable to reactivate, and the added sum of these clubs, $2,244.27 will go back into the CFP general line XXX. Therefore, be it resolved, the following clubs will no longer be able to reactivate and will be liquidated. Be it finally resolved, the CFP general line will absorb the funds of those clubs.
Do we have any discussion on the resolution? Our treasurer.
So I know I made the change a couple weeks back, so I'm going to just entertain it again. Line XXX replace with line 305.
Do I have a so moved? So moved by Senator Totino. Do I have a second? Seconded by Senator Wallachy. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Our treasurer.
Line 305 under CFB is their extra fund and request line.
Do we have any further discussion on the motion? Webb.
So I know that MSU and BLASU merged. Did the money go to MSU or okay?
I can give information that is unbiased. To my knowledge, that line transfer went through at the beginning of the year, and MSU should now have BLASU's money. So no need to liquidate under that circumstance. Do we have any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? All those who oppose? And all those who abstain? That motion passes 7-0-0. We move back into discussion of the resolution. Do we have any further discussion? Senator Fisher.
This bill, when it gets voted on, it happens right away, right? That's not clearly in the...
Upon passage and ratification.
Okay,
All resolutions are upon passage and ratification.
okay.
Our treasurer.
I'd like to entertain another motion to change all instances of CFB general line to CFB extra fund and requests.
Do I have a so moved? So moved by Senator Fisher. Do I have a second? Seconded by Senator Guntert. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion on the motion, does anybody oppose unanimous consent? Seeing none, that passes 7-0-0. Back into discussion of the resolution. Do we have any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, we will now move on to voting for the resolution to liquidate the clubs listed. All those in favor? All those who oppose? And all those who abstain? This resolution passes 7-0-0. We will now move on to Senate Bill number 2324-06. Senator, hold on, I'm pulling up my list. Senator Walters.
Bill number 2324-06.
Do I have a second? Seconded by Senator Fisher. You may proceed.
We, the members of student government at Utica SUNY Poly, as represented in the Senate, do enact as follows. The purpose of this bill is to reform and flesh out the impeachment process.
Do we have any discussion on this bill? Seeing no discussion on the bill, we will, Senator Fisher.
I'm trying to read it. So, if the accused rights are violated, what happens after that? Say, like, they do not get due process.
I can't speak, I'm the chair. So, anybody from policy committee want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Do you want? Treasurer Self, do you
Do-
accept the position of the chair? Oh, our advisor.
Sure. You were saying in the process that it's not listed as having due process, or?
It's confusing what happens if the person's due process is violated.
So I think that probably has to go back to policy a little bit, if that's a question that you want to explore to make sure. I mean, I think the process itself is that they could make that claim as part of their argument and part of their commentary, if you will, as part of the process. But that's where the checks and balances of this body would make to ensure that the process itself, right, those things were upheld. But if it's unclear to you before you vote, then that's something that you would want to clarify, then you should think about that. Or if it's clarified in just sort of the process and policies that we already have in place.
Our chief of staff.
So I guess this question would go between our vice president and our advisor. I'm still a bit, not skeptical, that's not the word, just confused in the due process of underneath methods, section 5, number 3, violations of the Student Code of Conduct and the State University of New York Polytechnic Institute's community standards. Now, technically, in some breakage of the Code of Conduct or community standards, students can get either suspended or expelled. Does that overwrite student government? Like, say a student gets suspended or something, like they do just something that really violates the Code of Conduct. Does the Code of Conduct and the Code of Conduct committee override student government? Or does that person?
Absolutely, sorry.
Our advisor.
Sorry, Sierra.
Yeah.
Yeah, your status as a student is first and foremost.
Right.
So the student code of conduct is always going to be first and foremost.
So
You can't be on student government if you're not an active student.
Right. Sorry.
Our chief of staff.
So that's why I'm a little bit confused by number 3. If the Code of Conduct / community standards overrides SGU pretty much, in that scenario, how would somebody in student government, like, it's pretty much a situation, it's situational, because I'm not sure then, I'm not sure how these things would go. Like, if somebody violates the Code of Conduct and they're not suspended, then what Megan gives, our advisor gives either the President Wadsworth or Vice President Fee, saying that, hey, this student violated such and such, and that's it? Not even that?
Our advisor.
I mean, the student's record is confidential.
Right.
So you have to, so yes, I think there's a lot of questions in that piece. I think you're right for calling that out. I think there's a reason, though, for you to ensure that you're, just like RAs, right? RAs can't be on an active probation or, in order to be an RA. Like, they can't have an active, if they're found responsible for something as an RA, they can't have their job. Is that something the student government wants to look into? Then that's something that we'd have to flush out to make sure that those checks and balances are in there, and how we would go about that. That would, so, and that might be more of a contract, right? Maybe it's more of it in the contract piece about if you have to not report, but if there's something comes up that way. But I think it's definitely worth something looking into and exploring about how the student code of conduct is impacted with this body, for sure. But I do think you're right in that the impeachment part might be hard, unless they're just not a student anymore. And that would just null and void even an impeachment process. So yeah, I think it's a good point to raise. A lot of questions that need to be probably determined with that one.
Do we have any further discussion on this? Our chief of staff.
Then I will like to entertain to motion to remove number 3 under methods, section 5.
Do I have a so moved? Seeing no so moved to that motion dies. Do I have any further discussion on the bill? CFB.
For Article 5, Section 5, it says 5 or more unexcused absences within a 2-week time frame. Can I get an example of what kind of absences those are from?
All absences listed under policies and procedures refer to student government absences.
Okay.
Do we have any further discussion on the bill? Our college council.
So on the third page under Division 2, so it talks about 10% of the student body must vote, which that's good, of course. My curiosity relates to how are we gonna like go about that? Like, are we gonna do like polling hours? Are we gonna like have posters up saying vote? Like, how's that gonna work? I yield.
Policy committee had gone back and forth on that. The body had left that ambiguous for the purpose of discussion on the floor. Do we have any further discussion on the bill? Our advisor.
I think it's just point for clarification and really to consideration is that you wouldn't want to have to run a special election for this, a standalone. That's just a lot of time and effort. I mean, I know you want to get this through, but you may have to wait till a spring election and put it together as more of a package, if that's in there, which it needs to be. But so thinking about that for consideration, the hours that go into it, unless you're going to tie it to something else that's going on, then I would consider pushing this to spring.
Do we have any further discussion on the bill? Senator Walters.
And on it says, Section 3, I think, methods, and number 2, the misuse or misplacement of the funds. Can I get example?
Our
I don't know.
treasurer.
It'd be basically, say I put a purchase through and I managed to slip it past Megan and John, and it was, say, $20,000 to Amazon. But it actually didn't go to Amazon. It went to myself to buy something of my own. That'd be a misuse of allocated funds. I yield.
Do we have any further discussion on the bill? Our advisor.
I think point of clarification is something to consider too, the misuse of power. I would say the misuse of responsibility. Power is just a word that I'm not sure you want in your documents moving forward, so maybe a misuse of responsibility. If you're already looking at this document for some further clarification and detail, I would look at that.
Do we have any further discussion on the bill? Senator Yellow, you had your hand up first.
I would like to motion this bill, table it to the policy committee again, make the necessary changes, and talk about the third one as well, and come back again.
Do I have a second to the motion? Seconded by Senator Fisher. Do I have any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, does anybody oppose unanimous consent to the motion? Seeing none, that passes 7-0-0. This bill has been tabled back to policy committee. Seeing as new business has been concluded, we will now move on to open forum. Do we have anything for open forum? Senator Fisher.
Had an issue brought up to me by a student. The two-way stop at the front entrance. I was told that the dangers of having that on campus, because there have already been some accidents that almost have happened, that they want it as a four-way stop.
Point of clarification, can you mention the two roads that intersect for that two-way stop? Senator Gunchert?
It is Seymour Road and Residential Drive, I believe.
Oh, I know exactly what we're talking about. Yep. Our audience member.
It's Technology Drive.
Okay, so I can attest to what he's saying. It's the road right here, the one that as you're exiting campus. The other day, I was leaving to go to Walmart. A person from facilities just blew right by the stop sign, almost hitting me. Just blew right by it as I'm coming there. And I know we had a problem with this last year where facilities was doing this stuff, and I was already going to bring it up during this meeting, but since he's already bringing it up, I figured it's a good point to make where it's not only just facilities, it is other people that just blow through it because it is just a two-way stop.
Do we have any further discussion for open forum? Our treasurer.
I'm not going to approach this as treasurer. I'm going to actually take like an engineer and kind of look at it. There may be a reason behind it being a two-way. I would say look into a four-way. They might have to do a full-on study of that intersection to see what to do, because we can't just throw up a four-way right away. There's traffic studies that are done every time they do changes on the road. I yield.
Our audience member.
I would just suggest putting a stop sign. Like, I don't know how to explain this, but
Thank you. Do we have any further discussion? Senator Fisher.
I would want, I've also had the problem of the deer, that there should be probably deer signs saying beware. Because I know some people don't always follow the speed limit, and if you hit a deer at going 50 miles per hour, it's not going to end well.
Do we have any further discussion for open forum? Our advisor.
I would encourage safety and facilities to get with a few of the students in the space and try to see if that can be an agenda item about traffic and stop signs or whatever else is happening.
Do we have any further discussion? Webb.
I would like to personally, Megan, because meeting you, it's been a great time, whether we're talking about football or diversity on campus or orientation. It's been a great time knowing you. You will be missed.
Do we have any further discussion for open forum? Our treasurer.
Can everyone give Megan another round of applause?
Do we have any further discussion for open forum? Senator Yella.
Thanks for everything, Megan. Always stay funky fresh.
Do we have any further discussion for open forum? Wildcat Media.
Since Ava never calls on any of us for adjournment, just whoever's adjourning, remember to do it until next week.
Well, now I'm going to look to you guys. They can motion to adjourn. It's just always been senators for some reason.
You can motion, Thomas.
Seeing as, I'll look to you guys. Seeing as open forum has concluded, do we have any swear-ins today? Seeing no swear-ins, do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Senator Fisher. It goes by hands, man. Do you want to state as
I
to...
want a motion to adjourn the Senate meeting till November 30th for the next meeting because of Thanksgiving break next week.
Do we have a second to the motion? Seconded by Senator Walke. Do we have any discussion on adjournment? Seeing no discussion on adjournment, all those in favor of adjournment? All those who oppose? Senator Walters, was that opposition to adjournment? I'm going to call for a recount on that. All those in favor of adjournment, all those who oppose, and all those who abstain. That passes 6-0-1. This